There are these peculiar faculties of the psyche, that it isn't entirely confined to space and time. You can have dreams or visions of the future. You can see round corners and such things. Only ignorance deny these facts. It's quite evident that they do exist and have existed always.
So I'm in Philadelphia, so it's pretty similar to like New York or Boston, but just in general, because I know in Ireland, like, it's always a little cloudy.
Yeah.
For the most part. But yeah, you were talking about like circadian rhythm maxing, sun maxing. Dude, for years, like so I've never been a good sleeper ever in my life. I was always, like, growing up, I would stay up till like 2 or 3 a.m., wake up at 7 a.m. to go to school. And then when I was in like my early 20s, I would party. I would never sleep. I had insomnia, and then I had some issues with drugs and substances. And then even when I got sober, I still had terrible sleep. My sleep was so bad. I would get like 4 or 5 hours a night. I could not fall asleep before like 2 a.m. And I would always wake up right at 7 a.m. every single night for years. In 2023, I was listening to Andrew Huberman, and I had learned about viewing morning sunlight and all of the effects that it has on your circadian rhythm. So I started to do that. I really wanted to dial in my sleep, especially since, I was an athlete. I was looking to compete in kickboxing, Muay Thai, MMA, all of that stuff. So I after a few weeks of getting the morning sunlight within an hour of waking up and just staring directly at the sun, because the sun's still low, it's not hurting my eyes, I didn't really see any results, but, I stayed diligent, and I just kept doing it. I did that for like a year and a half, like every single day, no matter what. Ava thought I was crazy doing it every single morning. She'd ask me, what am I doing? But yeah, before I had any caffeine or anything, just water, sunlight, like within a half hour, an hour at most. And now, 3 years later, I don't do it every day, but I do it maybe like twice a week, once or twice a week. But my circadian rhythm is so strong now that it's hard for me to stay up past like 10:30 or 11. I haven't had work at all this week because I'm starting a new job on Monday.
Yeah.
So because of that, I've kind of been staying up a little later. Like now I've been falling asleep at around 12:30, but every single morning, no matter what, I wake up at the same exact time. Wake up at 6:30 or 7, but it just goes to show, like, the whole viewing sunlight for circadian health. It's so legit.
Yeah, man, perfect. Like you said,
it's so legit.
It really is, and it makes sense, especially when Huberman breaks down that whole kind of. You kind of want a very high cortisol spike in the morning for stress. It's like good stress to wake you up, and then past noon, then it's just like a steady decline, and then you want as little cortisol throughout in the evening, right? And that's not the drill. Yeah, man. So it's changed my life absolutely. Sun gazing, and I think there's all other hidden benefits that we're not fully aware of in terms of I don't know. There's hidden solar information that we're just getting that dials us into the collective in a woo-woo sense. That's my view.
Absolutely. Anyway. I'm so sorry about my puppy, by the way.
No, bring her into it. She needs to be involved. There's important matters at hand. Come here, I've already hit record, so I just want to say to anyone for the audience here listening, right, that this is Matt Ring. The one Matt Ring. My cousin, dear family, and the RFC K series champ, eh?
Yes, sir.
As of recent.
Yes, sir. Feels good.
So you grew up in Boston and now you're in Philly. I'm in Ireland, just out of Dublin. So, but yeah, I thought it would be worthwhile having you on the pod and first of all, catch up because it's been too long, we can do so publicly and shoot the shit. But like, obviously, we've had kind of a very remarkable coincidental similarities in our upbringing.
Absolutely.
And I think that it would be really, you've gathered some treasures along your journey, and I think it's really valuable for people to hear and just to get your insight of it all. So yeah, like, if you want, I'll just briefly tell kind of how the first time we got to kind of hang out properly.
Yeah.
Unfortunate circumstances that kind of brought us that way. So when I was 15, my dad died of cancer. I said it a lot of times on this podcast at this stage, but yeah, it was brutal. Very different life after that. You know, it was like night and day. But very shortly after, I want to say like 8 guts of a year or something like that, we got news over here in Ireland that your dad, Paul, had died as well, and everybody was just floored by this. So like pretty much the whole family in Ireland came over to Boston. We got to see you and the family, and we well, it was the first time I got to kind of properly hang out with you, that we weren't like toddlers, you know, or kids. And I think we bonded. We had so much in common, and we kind of kept in contact over the years. But of course, you know, we're living in different countries, we're on our own journeys. But it seems like you've been on a crazy journey, man. Like, you know, we've kept in contact over the years, and it's, yeah. Like, tell me about your journey. Like, how has life been? Like,
absolutely. Yeah, it really is. It really is crazy, the parallels that we have, right? But yeah, my dad died when I was 14, and it's one of those things. It's like, I remember. So this is going to sound crazy, right? But I'm sure you have similar things along these lines, right? But growing up, I was, like, when I was super young, I was so obsessed with the band Green Day, right? So obsessed to the point where I idolized their singer at the time growing up. So the singer of Green Day, his dad died when he was 10 years old, right? And because of this, for whatever reason, I used to tell my close friends, I used to tell the people I was in a band with growing up, that my dad also died when I was 10, right? It was just like this made up child thing that I was saying because I wanted to be similar to the singer of Green Day. So inside my head, when I was like 13, 14, for some reason I thought, you know, eventually my dad will die because I'm supposed to be this next big rock and roll punk star type of situation. So then I remember I was sleeping over my best friend's house the night that my dad died. And I remember having a conversation with him about my dad dying. So when I woke up that next morning, and this is just a core memory for me at this point, like this whole chain of events. And you know, sometimes I wonder, like, throughout the years, did my brain just make this up to try to cope with the death, or like as a coping mechanism?
False memories type of situation.
Exactly. Yeah. But the friends that I had back then, they'll tell you the same exact timeline of events too, and me saying all of this, right? But I remember when my mom called my friend's mom to tell her that I had to go home. And inside my head, I knew something was a little off. So my mom sat us down and told us that our dad died. And in that moment, it was kind of like, okay, this makes sense. Like, this is a part of the timeline. That was like the initial, you know, a 14-year-old brain making sense of it all, right? And I had lost my dog a few months before then, like maybe 10 months before then, I lost my childhood dog. I remember when I found out my dog died, like immediately, like I bawled my eyes out. I was crying in the shower. But then I found out my dad died, and it was just like, oh, this was this was supposed to happen. It was just a part of my story, right? Like, I feel like anybody that age kind of has this main character syndrome. Maybe some more than others. Maybe I really had it, right? But it was a part of my main character syndrome. But yeah, that was like the initial reaction. Like, this was supposed to happen, and it, like you've said, right? Like, it creates this form of, I'm a very existential person, right? Like, I have these existential crises all the time. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It really just means, I think a lot about life and the bigger picture and, the meaning of life. But it almost makes me wonder, like, is there any truth behind the whole idea of parallel universes and manifestation? And I don't know, but it really makes me wonder, right? But yeah, after that, I didn't really cope with it like at all. I remember my mom wanted me to see a therapist, so I saw a therapist at school because I was supposed to, and that really didn't help at all because I just, I you're so young that it's like you don't even understand what had just happened. But one thing that really sticks out to me is I remember for like 2 or 3 months after my dad died, we would always have people at the house. Like, we would always have friends, family, and people bringing food. And
Similar
I
to me
thought,
as well. Yeah, very
yeah, I
similar.
thought it was wonderful. It was amazing. And I remember like 4 months after it happened, people stopped showing up. And that stuck with me. It was kind of like, oh, where did everybody go? And then I think that's when it really kicked in because I started to act out. Prior to this, I had always gotten really good grades in school. In Boston, we have our public school system. You have to test into the high school that you go to. So I got into the best high school. I tested into the best high school that hundreds of thousands of kids test into. I got in, so I was on the right path. And then in ninth grade, going into high school, I just started to skip class. I started to not care about school, and of course, like at the time, you don't connect it to your dad dying or any grief or anything like that. Um, yeah, I started to think that it was more important to skip school, hang out with my friends. A few years later, I started to get heavy into smoking weed, taking psychedelics. And then I had met some new friends of mine who were into some harder drugs. I got into cocaine, Xanax, all sorts of stuff. And I'm a super open book about all of this at this point, because, and the reason I am is because other people aren't.
Yeah.
And I think that it's super important as a society that we are all open about our worst moments, because that's the way that you remove stigma, and that's the way that we grow as a collective, right? That's always been my mentality behind it. But yeah, I started to get into heavy substances.
So can I just stop you there? So you,
Of course.
your friends that you first started smoking weed with, let's say, are they the same group that introduced you to the harder stuff, or that was a different peer group?
Different group.
Yeah. And that be like how much in a time frame, like how long were you smoking weed, psychedelics, and then how long was it until you started moving on to harder stuff?
About a year and a half.
Okay.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
So you're saying cocaine, Xanax?
Yeah, it started with cocaine and Xanax. It was a lot of LSD and still doing the psychedelics. It wasn't years after that we all started to do opiates. Because in the U.S., like these big cities in the U.S., it's hard to steer. If you're in any sort of party scene, like eventually you're going to encounter fentanyl,
Yeah.
whether you know it's fentanyl or not. You eventually you take, like, what happened to me was, this was right when the pandemic started. So this was March of 2020, and everybody was locked up. We couldn't do much. But my friends and I, we still wanted to party, and I was filming a music video for a friend of mine. Um, and he was supposed to pay me in cash for filming the music video. He was also a drug dealer, and he said that he had some perk 30s. So I said, oh yeah, sure, I'll take some of them.
Sorry, just for
Especially
people who
cash.
aren't familiar, Percocet. What class of drug is Percocet?
It's an opiate,
Yeah.
an
Okay.
opioid.
Okay. Go on.
Yeah, so I said that I would take some. So I did those for about 2 or 3 days, and I remember on the third or fourth day I woke up like super sick. I thought that I had COVID. Turns out I was actually in withdrawal from fentanyl, because the perk 30s, the opioids that he gave me weren't real. They were actually all laced with fentanyl. Again, like, this is during the pandemic, so you can't even do much. There was nothing really to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be sick anymore, so I had decided to hit up my buddy and ask for more. Um, and, just to connect it to the whole grief aspect, around this time was also when my really close friends, they all started to die. So maybe to rewind a little bit, about 2 years before then, I had a best friend of mine commit suicide. He shot himself in the head while all of my other friends were sleeping over his house. So his name was Alex. So after Alex died, eventually, like, all of my closest friends started to die. Um, Not to get all over the place with, like, timelines and stuff, but fast
Yeah.
forwards today,
Yeah.
out of maybe the 12 people I was hanging out with, it's like me and my other best friend who are the only ones who are still alive out of that
Wow.
friend group. Right. So I kind of started to go down a similar path as them. I would overdose, wake up in the hospital. I got in trouble with the law a few times. Today, I have a perfectly squeaky clean record. I could work any job that I want. I'm super grateful for that. But yeah, I would say that all of this has to do with my dad dying when I was 14.
But so you're you said your squeaky clean record now. So and it really shows from just keeping up with you online just how well you seem to be doing, man. I'm so proud of you. Like, it's like, genuinely, it's so cool to see, because like I think we're both on similar journeys, and just like there came a day where we're just like, enough is enough. Like, and we have our different stories, like, obviously, in the sense that, like, I didn't get caught up in opiates, but I damn well sure got caught up in addiction of all other kinds. And then, yeah, that just decision of, no, like, this will kill me, or I need to, like, overcome it. And then that kind of alchemization then of turning it into something good. So how long have you been sober now, do you think? Do you know?
4.5 years, almost 5 years.
Hell yeah, brother. That's what I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
it's crazy. It's crazy because everybody has a different rock bottom. My rock bottom was, I had spent some time in jail, and this was this was exactly. So this was my real rock bottom. I had spent some time in jail. I spent 3 months in jail. And the way that the system works in Boston, for some reason, at the place that I was locked up in, is that they there's a jail called Nashua Street County Jail. It's in the middle of Boston, and for some reason they mix the people who have substance abuse issues in with the people who are awaiting trial for murder.
Oh yeah, I
So
remember you telling me this. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Go on, go
I
on.
I was locked up in a unit with a bunch of people either who were addicted to opiates or were awaiting trial for murder. And I remember when I had went in, I had told myself, Matt, you know that there is a chance you may fall into the same behaviors as the other people who are locked up, because that's just how the system works. You become institutionalized. And, going into that, I knew that. And I thought that because I know that, I'm too smart to become institutionalized. I'm not going to play into any of these prison politics. I'm too smart for that. I'm just going to stick to myself and do me, which I did. But I can tell you that I found myself, after just a few weeks being in there, I found myself just naturally starting to behave how the other inmates were
Really?
behaving. It just in terms of, you have nothing to do all day
Yeah.
other than listen to drama and get involved in certain beef and
Yeah, how could you not? You need to almost to
yeah,
survive. You have to evolve yourself. Like it's always that
yeah,
cliche thing of being like you gotta prove it that you just gain
yeah.
respect so you don't get fucked over. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're social beings. Humans are social animals, right? And if you've ever heard of the Stanford prison
Oh yeah.
experiment,
Oh yeah.
so it's the same idea as that, right? Like they took in the 70s, they took these college kids, and assigned them as either an inmate or a guard. And after a long enough period of time, they started to act like either an inmate or a guard, even though they went into that knowing that they're neither. So I think it's just how we act and how we behave as humans. You surround yourself with one thing, you're going to come out of that as that thing. But I remember I could go on and on about the stories in jail, which I
Mm-hmm.
won't do right now. But
Okay.
one thing that I vividly remember, so my dad died in August of 2011, right?
August.
Yeah,
Do you,
August.
well, my dad died in August too, August 9th in 2010.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's wild enough right there. My dad was August 22nd, 2011.
Hmm.
So fast forward 10 years, it's August 22nd, 2021, right? And I'm sitting in a jail cell and I go to call my mom and my mom doesn't answer. I go to call my best friend, he doesn't answer, and nobody took my call, and I do not blame them. This is exactly what I needed in the moment, but of course, when you're in the moment, it doesn't feel like that's what you need, right? But that's exactly what I needed, and this will always be a core memory of mine now because it was such a pivotal moment. But I remember sitting there in my bunk thinking, if you had told me when I was 14 in 2011 that in August 2011 when my dad died, in exactly 10 years you'll be sitting in a jail cell with nobody answering your call, I wouldn't have believed it at all, right?
Yeah,
But it was
yeah,
such a
yeah.
pivotal moment because it was exactly 10 years after my dad dying. And it was kind of at that moment when I realized I have to change something, because this is absolutely not where I want to be in my life. Not to go on a tangent, but that was kind of when I had made the decision that I was going to try to turn my life around.
Amazing, man. It's a powerful moment. It's like you said, everybody has their rock bottom, and that is a meaningfully dark memory, what seems like. And you told it very poised, very put together, but I'm sure that has a lot of emotional turmoil wrapped up in that memory. Okay, there's lots you said there, and like I could go in a lot of different directions, but before we'll just resume from that point in a minute. I just want to go all the way back to the start, okay, to what you just said at the start, when you almost saw this as an inevitable part of your story, that you kind of like knew that in order to become who you're meant to be, your dad was meant to die, and that was the starting point.
Yes.
I was being polite as a host and trying to shut my mouth because I just wanted to go, me fucking too. Like that's so weird that you said that. Yeah. It's so bizarre because I've only told like very few people, a handful of people, this 2 or 3 maybe, that I used to not fantasize, but I just, like you, I was very, very obsessed with music, and I had this idea of becoming some type of rock star or whatever. So, yeah. And like exactly the same story, that I just knew that both my parents were going to die. It was really weird. It was really, really weird. Like, whatever. My mum was sick all my life, so that was kind of easier maybe to predict. But like, my dad was very, very sudden. It came out of nowhere. So when I tell people that, when you say that, is it a false memory type of thing? Are you trying to, let's say, stitch up a meaningfully, neat story for yourself? So, no. I distinctively remember this, like as a kid, just kind of knowing that this would happen. And at that age, like, let's say I was 13-ish, 12, 13, and I was like preparing myself for what route I should take, because this was going to be an inevitable action. And I wasn't struggling with the idea of my parents dying. It was more so I was struggling with, well, how do I use the enormity of the potential that this type of tragedy will have on my life? How do I direct that? That was the thing that was on my mind for a couple of years, and I kept that to myself. Well, I journaled a bit of it, even when I was that young. I used to do a bit of journaling, so like it's all there. It's so that really blew my socks off when you said that. Like, and it, we could go in all sorts of ways. Like, what is that? Like, what, like, is, I don't know what your spiritual belief is, but like I've come to understand that people have, better than me in the spiritual community, have kind of like stitched together an idea of what this life is, this reality, and that we kind of, so let's say a lot of the new age spiritualists that we, and I consider myself one, that we incarnate over and over again, we get our memories wiped clean, and we go, but before we come in here, we have kind of talks with guides or planners, I don't know, and there's a couple bullet points of which you agree to, like terms and conditions, and they're unavoidable. Now you have free will, but these things, you agreed that's why you're here in this life for. Now, I don't know if you believe that. Like I really, really struggled with this after hearing it, but I kept on hearing it over and over and over again. And then it fits very neatly into, if you try and make sense of your life, like, okay, that makes sense. I absolutely have free will, but there's certain things that I just know about life that's going to happen, and it ends up happening. And my parents dying was just one of those things. So it's like the ultimate form of manifestation, because in order to manifest, you got to believe that's going to happen, or fully buy into that. So I mean, I think that's just wild that the two of us had that thing. That kind of like affirmed my own story of what I told myself of like, yeah, we agreed to this shit before we came here in this life. I mean, I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, no, that's That makes a lot of sense. That definitely makes a lot of sense. Like I totally agree with the whole. There are things that we just know will happen, like these core beliefs that make up who we are.
Yeah.
For in terms of like, so my. I'm so sorry. Grace, hey,
Forgive me,
my.
Grace. Grace.
I'm so sorry, Grace.
Grace.
Stop that. When it comes to spiritualism, I am I'm constantly changing what I believe. I'm constantly evolving my beliefs in the spiritual realm of things. Right now, I'm kind of going through a phase where last year I got heavy into Christianity. Um, for that was probably like the first time in my life where I started to pray to Jesus, and started to consider myself a Christian. Like when people would ask, I would say, "Yeah, I consider myself Christian." The past few months, I've kind of strayed away from that, and I couldn't really tell you why. Um, I really couldn't tell you why. Um, it's not that. So there are a lot of Christians that they think that in order to get other people to be Christian, that like it if I were a Christian and I were trying to get Ava, my girlfriend, to be Christian as well, I would know that I can't. It's not something that I can convince her of.
Sure.
If
Yeah.
that makes sense, right?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So like as much as I want to be a Christian, in 2026 I don't think I consider myself a Christian.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call myself agnostic either
Yeah.
or atheist.
Okay.
Um, I'm still just figuring it all out,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. That's normal. Like, yeah. Do you want to go on there or
Yeah, like I every single night I like we were talking about earlier, you have these existential crises, right? So every single night, like I'm listening to new theories about what this all may mean. And it's super, super, super ironic that this morning I was driving to go get coffee with my 10-month-old puppy. So I get my coffee, and Grace, she's in the passenger seat. And I decide on a whim.
Grace, your
No,
dog? Sorry.
Grace is my dog.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
My
Yeah.
apologies.
You're good.
So on a whim, I decide, let's go for a walk. So I start to drive to a trail that we go to often, and I never make mistakes like this. I'm a super safe driver, right? But Grace is in my passenger seat, which is on the right hand in the U.S. I know you guys, it's the opposite, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, we're at a green light. The light turns yellow, and I'm trying to make a left turn. There's a car coming toward me this way, and I'm trying to take a left turn. And I decide I'm going to make that left turn, even though this car is coming, which is something that I never do. I'm a super safe driving.
I get you.
Right, and I go to make the left turn. There's a cop sitting right there, like watching the traffic,
Fuck.
and I almost killed Grace, who would have got the collision head on. The other car was going about 55 miles an hour. It definitely would have killed her because it would have crashed straight into the passenger seat. The other car swerved right out of the way. The cop saw all of this, And like right immediately when I saw that it was happening, my brain just went to this super dark place. It was immediately I just saw an image of my dog bloody and dead next to me, and me all bloody, and my car flipped upside down. It was an image that felt so vivid as all of this is going on. And, you know, my heart's racing. The cops saw all of this go on, so I'm convinced the cops are about to pull me over. So I pull over on my own just to like chill out for a minute. But it was one of those. It was one of those. It was something that had me. You know, since that happened this morning, I've just been thinking about it all day, and it was one of those moments where I wonder, you know, was I supposed to die? Like, was my dog supposed to die? Is there another alternate universe where, you know, that crash happened? I'm in the hospital right now. I just killed my dog. So that's kind of what I was thinking. And then I thought, you know, the fact that Ben and I have a podcast scheduled later today centered around grief is extremely ironic.
Wow.
Right. But it was one of those moments that really had me questioning life. You know, did that happen for a reason?
Yeah, that's
You know?
that would definitely make you think. Those like coincidences, I rarely use that word now because there are coincidences, but then there are synchronicities. They're like meaningful events that the internal world matches up with the external, you know. That's that synchronistic magic to life, you know. It's okay, Grace. We survived. You got through the crash. Didn't happen. That's in a different. It's in a different universe that you're dead.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. If she keeps barking, I'll take it inside. So
I'm sure that there's not one viewer that minds the dog, a company of a dog.
Okay.
Or that doesn't mind. Yeah, I don't. There's so much there. So you've been on a bit of a spiritual arc. You're constantly reevaluating your spiritual beliefs. Healthy, very, very healthy. Like, would you think, like, let's just go back and forth. Do you think you would have considered yourself an atheist as a teenager, or like when
Absolutely.
you first, okay. And like when you're in your drug taking days, it was pure atheism. Like it was like, do you know what, actually, here's a funny one for you. I'm like you said, I'm a very big existentialist like you, and I have delved into every nook and cranny of this world of, like, I'm not like an formally educated person in these matters, but like I all my spare time I'm listening to podcasts, I'm reading books that I have no business reading that are too academic, and I'm just trying to do it. I'm like, must try, learn, be smart, you know. But where's I going with that? Yeah, when you came to Ireland one time, I forget what age we were, maybe 18-ish. You came over for a couple of weeks, and you were the first one. I remember vividly, we were in Uncle Philip's car, we're on our way somewhere, and then you said, Ben, do you know what nihilism is? And I turned around, and at this stage, I was not very philosophically inclined. I was like, no, what's nihilism? What'd you say? Nihilism? And then you like broke it down. You're like, yeah, it's kind of the belief in nothing, and that everything is meaningless. And then I was like, holy shit. And what a weird seed you planted in my head, because I was just on path to living the full nihilist fetish, you know, like just completely. And I think in order to become a very, let's say, self-destructive addict, you kind of you're almost automatic. You're automatically a nihilist, you know. Maybe I'm wrong in saying that, but I'd say that's correct. Like,
no, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, so it is strange how, like, I think it was Carl Jung who said that, like, the only way an alcoholic or drug addict for that matter, but I
Yeah.
think he used the term alcoholic. The only way that they can change their life around and become sober is if they have a spiritual transformation and enlightenment. It's the only thing that will actually kick them into gear. And I think we can relate in some regard to that, because it all started to kick into action with me when I started to shed away the belief that it's just atoms and molecules, and when we die, we're worm food. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Things started to happen, weird, meaningful synchronicities. The universe felt like it was talking to me. I went through a period of time, I was like, I'm going crazy. This is what everybody warned me about. When you smoke too much weed, you get schizophrenic breaks, or what's it called?
Psychosis.
Psychosis, thank you.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was that. I really don't think it was that. It was something higher telling me to cop the fuck on, get on track, like reevaluate, reload. And thank God for that, like the conscience kicked in. So I went on a bit of a similar journey with you with Christ stuff. Like I called myself Christian for quite a while. But then, and I tried to get into Christianity, read the Bible and tried to like follow the practices of Christianity, but like something didn't sit right. Like it felt good to be have a structured way to express whatever the hell is going on for a little while, but then after a while I felt like I was faking something, that like it's just like I'm just
same here.
Yeah, and that we're going backwards here. It felt like something about this is wrong. We need to be moving forward, whatever that meant. And now I've gotten to a place where I'm like, now probably a lot of people can relate to this now, that whoever Christ was, he wasn't the only God. You know what I mean? Like, I think he may have incarnated as a he channeled Christ consciousness. Like it's a very common term now being used, and I think that is the real important matter of the whole story of Christianity, is like do away with all the institutional stuff and just channel that Christ consciousness and realize that everybody can tap into that. Like Jesus Christ just so happened to be very, very, very good at that, and I'd say he'd be pretty annoyed if he's seen how much we've institutionalized his name.
Yeah, there's so much that you just said that I want to expand upon. I'll start off with it's really funny to me that you have that memory of being in Phil's car and me bringing up nihilism, because I have this core memory. It's another core memory from when my dad died and you had come over. We were at my grandma's side, my grandma's house on my mom's side. Mm-hmm. And I remember you asking me, are you a Christian? Like, do you believe in all of this stuff? Because I think there was something religious going on at her house at the time or something like that. But you had asked me, this might have been a few years after my dad died. I don't know, but you were in Boston, and I was young, and you had asked me if I was a Christian. I wasn't at the time, but I said yes to you because I was scared that you were, and if I said no, that it would be looked down upon at the time. So I just said yes, and I kind of think, like you were saying, trying to get into Christianity as an adult, like I really wanted to be a Christian. I still really do want to be one, but like you were saying, something about it just doesn't feel right to me. It kind of felt like I was forcing myself to be one, even though deep down inside it wasn't what I actually truly believed. And I struggle with it all the time. Like this might sound a little silly, but the guy who I just fought for the belt, he has twice the experience that I have. He has all these fights. He was super good, but his whole thing is his biggest personality trait, other than being a fighter, is being a Christian. And I have so much respect for him. Like, he's a great fighter and stuff. But yeah, he's always posting about Jesus. All of his post-fight interviews, he's talking about thanking Jesus. I just remember on fight week, getting ready for the fight mentally, because fight week is all about getting your mind right. And I remember going into my backyard and praying. And there was this moment I had where I was scared. I was thinking, is he going to win because he's an actual Christian?
Oh, wow.
And am I going to lose because I'm not? So that was just like a fear that I had. So I think like the whole culture behind it, plays a deep role. A deep role in me wanting to be a Christian. And like you said, so I've always thought that since I was very young, I had this idea, like going through when I first considered myself from atheist into an agnostic, I had this idea that all of the religions have some truth to them.
Yeah.
But they're all created for different cultures,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I still think this to be true, right? We're all worshiping the same God. We just have different statues to worship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, if I were born in the Middle East, there's a good chance I'd be a Muslim. Right? I just so happen to be born in the U.S. and surrounded by Christianity. Or if I were born in the Tibetan mountains, or India, or my belief system would vary, right? And because of that, that's another reason why it's hard for me to label myself as a Christian, right? Because those people who are born in the Middle East, they don't really have. It wouldn't make sense to me that a God would send them to hell for not being born in the right place.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, for me anyway. It just didn't feel right.
Yeah. Well said. They're all like different genres of music, but it's all under the same category of music. It's
Exactly.
but and different flavors for different folks. But like, I think you gotta. The best form of manipulation is a little bit of truth muddled up with the lie. And I think sometimes how much of the institutions are like the structure around these core principles that all these religions have in common, like how much of it was manipulated by humans to put in place to control people. And I think that's what you're tapping into. Something doesn't feel right. I'm like, something doesn't feel right. The culture in large, like, is saying, like, around the world is kind of saying that everybody's starting to see that, yeah, we're all hinting at the same thing, but like, what's with these punishment systems? What about these inconsistencies? How come these, like, why the Ten Commandments, why are they somewhat contradictory, and why are they valued over other things that seem way more important? Like these type of things, it's like, well, they're more than likely put in place by people that were trying to control people and society at that time. And that's what kind of dismantled my like, I was big into Jordan Peterson, like big into Jordan Peterson. I really loved him, and I still really, really respect him, to be perfectly honest. He's done so much for me, and I've done, and for the world. So I'll always have a place in my heart for that man. But I've gone away from him a little bit as of late, even though he has away from the public. Of course, he's sick again. But that's a whole area of conversation as well. It's kind of interesting to talk about. But so stepped away from this religious idea and then got into a lot of somehow, like, for all my conscious observer community that might be listening, the aliens came into, like, it's like aliens, ancient structures, the relationship between, like, mysterious technology that just had to have existed to create these miracles. It's like, why isn't this all factored into our, like, existential picture of reality? You know, it's like all our great religions aren't talking about these things. It's like something's missing. So that's where I got into, like, a scholar called Jason Reza Rojani, and he's a philosopher from New York, but he's Iranian roots, and he's just, like, stupidly clever person, like, just IQ off the rails. And he talks about the myth of Prometheus, and he's kind of like bringing that back into the public. And the idea is that, like, there are the pantheon of gods that, you know, are really archonic from a Gnostic perspective. They're like archonic forces here to manipulate and control us, to go on for all sorts of reasons. And so they muddy up the truth of Christ consciousness with these things to help control us. That made a lot of sense, but that was a really dark view of reality. So for a while, I was like, this has to be true, but this is so fucked. Is there archonic forces? Like, how do we escape samsara? We're just caught in this loop, this prison planet, and it just felt like horrible, really, really horrible, for quite a while. And then, luckily, I stumbled across legend Jordan Crowder. I don't know if you're familiar with his work. He's a podcaster, philosopher, freaking conscious development guru type figure, and he really broke these things down in a lot lighter and better way. But anyway, I'm gonna ramble and keep going on. I don't want to wreck your head too much, but, like, yeah, that's the long and short of where I am at. And now I'm kind of in this weird space like you, where I'm open-minded, but, like, somehow I'm like a new age spiritualist that has, like, incorporated these ideas of, like, aliens, ancient structures into it. It's like I finally have something where that belongs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I really like how it really clicks with me. You saying, the best way to manipulate a population is by telling the truth but muddying it with lies. Like, one thing that we know to be true, and agnostics and atheists, who are historians, all, like, 99.9% of historians agree that there was a man who existed named Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, like, we know that he existed, right? The question is, like, did he walk on water? Did he do this and that? So, like, that's something that, just knowing that these atheists and these super smart historians all agree that Jesus existed, is something that brings me so much comfort. Just to know that, at least there has to be some truth to it, right? Like, there has to be some truth to the Bible and this story that they've been telling for 2,000 years. But yeah, like, recently, so I've always been big into it sounds, I wish I had better words for this, but, like, the power of the mind, right? Manifestation, whatever you want to call it. Like, I've always, since I was younger, I've always been huge into visualization, right? And I use it as a tool right now. If I'm getting ready for, like, I just had an interview for this new job, right? And I would spend a few minutes, like, the night before, just visualizing how the interview would go, how I would show up, and how I would speak in the interview. And whenever I fight, I do the same thing, like, weeks before the fight. I will lay in bed with my headphones on in a pitch dark room, listening to meditation music, and I'll visualize exactly how the fight's going to play out, how I'm going to feel in the fight, how I'm going to feel backstage from the time I get to the venue until after the fight. I visualize the whole thing. And there have been times where I am meditating, visualizing for 45 minutes to an hour, but it feels like 5 minutes. And I started to set a timer because I started to go crazy. So like I'll visualize, and it feels like I'm doing it for like 3 to 10 minutes at the most. Next thing I know, my timer will say it's been over an hour that I've been visualizing. So like something's clicking where it feels so real. And I remember before I had my first real fight in 2023, I was huge into this. I would listen to my idols talk about the power of visualization, right? Conor McGregor was a huge one for me just growing up. Um, he would always talk about visualization and like the power of the mind and the secret, the law of attraction, all of this stuff. And that's just always stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I remember it was the craziest feeling, but you get so nervous to compete. Like your girlfriend's going to be there, your mom's going to be there. You can get knocked out and put on a Instagram reel for millions of people to see potentially because it happens, right? Like, so you have all these thoughts going on in your head, and you need to focus. You have a million different ideas and thoughts about what's going to happen in your head for weeks leading up to it, and you just need to listen to the right thoughts, right? You need to like learn to listen to the right voice, but it's hard. So like weeks out before my first fight, I would I would start to visualize, and it was the craziest feeling. But I remember being in there in my first fight, and I had this thought while the fight's playing out, and I just thought to myself, I've been here before. Like, this already happened. All of this already happened. And I swear to God, I say it to my training partners all the time. During that fight, it was almost like I was viewing the fight from the sky. Like, it was like I was viewing the fight from the ceiling, but it didn't feel like I was fighting. It felt like I had already been there. And when I got my hand raised, it wasn't like, it was more matter of fact, like this already happened. So fast forward to today, and then 2 weeks ago when I won that belt, it was the same exact story. I had done all of these, same exact story. I had done all of these mental reps, right? And like my big goal since 2023 was to fight for this belt. And it was something that I remember being my first time fighting for RFC. I remember thinking to myself, wouldn't it be crazy to fight for a title here to get one of these belts? Because it's one of the biggest belts that you can have in Muay Thai or kickboxing in the whole U.S. Like, it's one of the most prestigious belts.
Holy shit.
So it was always like a huge goal of mine. And I remember thinking at the time, no, Matt, you're getting ahead of yourself. There's no way. You'll probably never fight for the belt. And, everything just happened so fast. And I remember leading up to the fight, I would have these mental reps of the guy putting the belt around my shoulder. So then when it happened, it was like this full circle moment. And it really makes me wonder, like, did those mental reps, did they help my performance because of some sort of like neurological thing going on where my neurons are used to seeing a certain punch thrown and reacting because I had thought about it so many times and visualized it? Or is it something deeper? Right? Like, is it something deeper? Like, did I tap into that same sort of thing that I tapped into when I was 14 and I was convinced that my dad was going to die? So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Right? And it's so difficult for me to like figure out which one it is, right?
Well, what? Why does it have to be one or the other? Like, why
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
it be this? Like when you say the neurological effect, like that's one framework to look at a truth. Like, and the way
yeah,
you can see a truth is from multiple. If you can see it from multiple frameworks, so it's like it makes sense. If like, yeah, there's neurological stuff going on where the brain is learning how to really get comfortable with the situation, and you see it happening, and but like the idea of manifesting is that we kind of meet the universe halfway. That I think the one of the reasons why the book The Secret wasn't like it, it had a lot of controversy surrounding it, and a lot of critics poo-poo it, and I think they were saying that because it was all intentional based, and it wasn't like meeting the universe
yeah,
halfway. They, like with behavior things.
yeah.
um
That makes so much sense. Not to cut you off, but
Yeah,
no,
go, go,
you're
go.
so right about that. It's like, why can't it be both, right? And that makes sense. That makes so much sense to me. Like, why can't it be both, right? Like, um, you're like, not to throw the audience off by mentioning like niche people, but Uncle Phil, if I were growing up, he would always tell me,
Niche people. No, he's a household name, even in Ireland. Well,
yeah,
Dr. Phil, come on,
yeah, I
man.
know. But Phil would always tell me growing up, like, he believes that you create your own luck,
Yes,
right? So, like, that could absolutely be what's going on, right? Like,
yes,
you create your own luck. It's both things. It's the universe and it's you
exactly.
acting in accordance.
That's right. Success is like preparation meets opportunity, right? And
Yeah,
it's that kind of idea. But like, I love what you said, that you were kind of like left your body and you were like seeing it from a different perspective, like
yeah. I swear
that.
to God, it was.
Oh, I believe you.
Yeah,
And it was like, I'm so used to hearing their people's testimonials on like outer body experiences and astral traveling and stuff, and like near death experiences. I've even talked to some people that have had
yeah,
that, and everybody kind of, and I've had an outer body experience that was very similar in the sense that I left my body. But when you're talking about something as like something as visceral and real life danger as a fight, you're in the middle of a fight, and your consciousness is almost like it's deciding, okay, you take over now, body. Like that's crazy. But it also speaks to the idea that, is consciousness local? Is it local?
yeah,
Is it into the body, or does it? You've heard of like the bioelectric field, that the aura that the human can
yeah,
produce, and
yeah,
it's like, I think there is like a bubble around each person that we can't see, but you can tap into, and our consciousness, our awareness can kind of hover at the top of that, and that's the idea of seeing yourself from
yeah,
a bird's eye view, and it's so cool because that takes the pressure off your consciousness.
yeah,
If you prepare the body, you prepared your body by visualizing, and then training your muscles in accordance with that visualization, almost like
yeah,
a really good editor, you know. And then, so then the body is prepared, it's primed, and now your consciousness can just kind of, okay, you take over now, you know what to do. It's the same, that famous clip of McGregor before he fighting
yeah,
Aldo, and that, like,
yeah,
it's that the exact slip, the duck, and then that
yeah.
left hook. Yeah, like, it's powerful stuff, dude. Like, really,
It,
really.
it's even more fascinating, right? Because so leading up to before the fight that I just had was booked, I was telling all of my buddies at the gym that I was that May 16th I'll be fighting for the RFC K series title. I swear to God, dude, I kept telling them I'm fighting for the title. I had no title fight booked. I had nothing booked. I
There you
swear to God,
go.
like,
There you
right
go.
hand to God, and my
Yeah.
buddies may see this too. I had no title fight booked, and it was like a week after I started to tell people that I'm fighting for the title May 16th that I got the call asking if I wanted to fight 5 rounds for the
Mm-hmm.
title. So like that kind of blew my mind when that happened. But you're still so nervous too. And I remember being backstage. my mom was, everybody was, the place had, there were so many people there, the bright lights. I remember being backstage, and it's like I was saying earlier, you have all these voices going on in your head. You just need to like decide which ones to listen to. So
Yes.
I
Yes.
remember when I was making that walk, I just kept repeating the same thing in my head. I kept telling myself, I am free. I am free. Be free. Be free. Be free. And it was like, to this, like, I've never felt more free in my life, but it just goes to show, like, how much power we really have over ourselves.
Yeah. It's self-narratives. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, amazing, man. That fires me up. So we've kind of unintentionally kind of been talking about manifesting in this weird way. That wasn't the direction, but it seems like it's an inevitable part of someone's kind of journey to take off like control over their lives. You kind of have to like form some form of relationship with manifestation. And I've had a relationship with it just recently. Like I was only a couple of months ago working in a job I really hated, and it was with Erologos, the Irish airline company, and I was like doing baggage handling, like in the underground cave, with no lights, LED flickering, and it was just something I personally wasn't good for my soul. And then I kept on.
Yeah.
I was learning about manifesting through this course with Conscious Observer Community, and I kept on telling myself. Visualizing me being around the opposite of that environment, which was a very, very peaceful place in nature, surrounded by birds, and like a spa and wellness. I kept on saying like I want to be around a spa, like almost like I need a long retreat, like a wellness center. Fast forward to yesterday, I was representing my company, not my company, the company I work for, at award ceremony in Dublin city centre for the best outdoor sauna in Ireland. We were shortlisted as like the top 2, and I was there by myself at this, and it was literally called the Wellness Awards. And I was like, okay, here I am. Like it's fucking crazy.
No, that's awesome.
We didn't win. We came second, but all sorts of cool synchronistic connections I made anyway. But anyway, we're getting all over the place here. I wanted to try and tie it back to a couple of things, okay?
Yeah, so, my apologies. I realized that.
Hey, no, this is great. This is all. No, me too. It's all normal. This is good stuff. But I wanted to touch on, because I don't know how long you got. I think we've been going for just over an hour now. So, but
it feels like we've been talking for 5 minutes.
Dude, I know. I could talk to you forever.
You're just flowing.
Yeah. It's like that time dilation. You're in flow state. So talked a bit about Jesus. Talked a bit about your views on spirituality. Also talking about the idea of being like a fighter. So there's a couple ways you can go there. Like in Jungian theory, like they're all the different archetypes that make up the human psyche, and the warrior is obviously a very vital and visceral journey for any man to actually embody. How am I trying to tie this to? Basically, I wanted to ask, what is your own relationship with, I'm going to be cringy and use the word, the divine? Like, how do you said that you briefly mentioned that you say the odd prayer or whatever it is, but do you have, I want to relate this back to our loved ones that have died. Do you have a practice, or even just not even like a disciplined practice, but how do you cultivate a connection with the loved ones that have gone? And then I'm going to ask something to do with the fighter archetype afterwards. But
so one thing that I do that was working for me for a long time was I used to when I would be struggling with something, or when I would be anxious, I would visualize my dad next to me. Like that was a big one, for me. But honestly, like I think what kind of happened to me was when it comes to all the other loved ones I've lost, I think you get to this point where you become almost desensitized to it. So I think about these friends who I've lost often, and I get filled with guilt because I think, how come I don't think about them more often?
Yeah.
It's almost like I become desensitized, and then when I hear that somebody else I know has died, my initial reaction is just kind of like, whatever. As terrible as that sounds, but I think you get to a point where you're kind of desensitized.
Hmm.
It's hard to explain. I think that's something that I still struggle with. Is tying everything together. I
Yeah.
think that me personally, I almost I almost avoid it. I've struggled with some avoidance in my past. Like I've gotten so much better at it throughout the years at not avoiding things. But I still think, like, to this day, I struggle with it.
Mm.
I tend to avoid it. It's weird though, because in September of last year I lost my dog. It was actually my girlfriend's dog, her childhood dog, who I gotten super close with. But losing her, like losing this dog, it felt harder. And I don't want to come off the wrong way, but um, obviously it's not the same as losing a human or like a very close friend. But in a way, like initially, like it was harder losing a dog than it was to lose some of these close human friends that I have. And it's made me wonder, is that on purpose? Like, is it almost easier to grieve harder when
Mm.
I lose an animal versus when I lose somebody I'm very close with?
Yeah.
Because it's like a defense mechanism, and it's how I'm letting my grief out.
Oh, I get you. So you're saying almost like this when a dog or a pet dies, all of your experiences you've had with grief can get funneled into this experience.
It's
Is that kind
that.
of what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's kind of what I realized.
Yeah. I think that's quite profoundly true because I had a similar experience recently enough, a couple months ago. My cat died, that I've had and I wasn't a big cat person, but this cat made me a cat person. And I got so incredibly sad. I was crying constantly for like 2 days, but then after 2 days, it just stopped, and I was completely okay, and I have been fine ever since. But for that 2 days, yeah, I can get what you mean. I think I felt the weight of all of the grief because like the nervous system responds to death like it remembers the first time. It's almost like an energetic
Yeah.
imprint, like a screenshot taken.
Yeah.
Um,
It just sucks because, like, for me anyway, it feels like there's no solution. Does that make sense? It's kind of like, it's kind of like, for me, like, dealing with grief has always kind of felt like, um yeah, nothing got better, but time has made things better, but there's been no solution.
yeah.
That's kind of been it for me, right?
Mm,
I think today, it's kind of the way that I've looked at it too, was, and I had this realization too when I was getting sober, was um, maybe God, maybe God took my dad from me when I was 14 to use my dad in different ways, right?
Yes.
That will benefit me and others more than he could have on Earth, and that was the quote unquote solution that I had come up with. And that was when I started to imagine my dad is next to me when I was dealing with stressful situations. It made sense to me. Like maybe he was taken from me so he could be here with me now, because my dad was sick when he was on Earth, right?
Mm.
Like he couldn't really do much physically.
Mm.
So that was the solution that I came up with. But then as I lost more and more friends, the idea of death started to make less sense to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. When you say that there were no solutions, it's my brain is kind of spinning with this one, because I get you. It is like life never gets easier. You only become, stronger to meet the circumstance head on and stuff. And everybody's on their own spiritual journey, and I'm in no position to tell anybody how they should think or feel. I can only come out from my perspective and tell my story. And like, I haven't had I've had one or two friends die from suicide. It doesn't seem like I've had the really intimate relationship with death that you've had with friends and stuff. And I can almost see from your perspective, it might be like more of a, what was the point in them dying? You're in, like, you can kind of make sense because when we say our parents, or my dad, your dad died for a reason to better develop us, but then it's harder to project that type of idea onto the deaths that are a little bit more sad or tragic and that don't really fit neatly into that framework, which is sad. But like, for me, why does Simba in Lion King, see his dad in the sky? That scene is the most powerful thing for me, always has been as a kid. And we project our fallen heroes as high as possible in the hierarchy of values. And whether you believe it or not, whether they're up there, where maybe it is all just world worm food, and these are psychological projections. They're whatever interactions we have with the dead is just the fragment of a memory we have with them in our own brains, and it's all neurological. Okay. Maybe it is, but it's still, even if you take that framework and you don't believe in the metaphysical stuff, it's like the value of interacting with the world, with spirituality, with spirit, with the loved ones that have died, the relationship with them, acting in a way as if we can commune with them, as if they're real. Like you said, when you visualize your dad next to you, that's a form of talking to them. You're bringing their essence close to you.
Yeah.
And that's that kind of like thing you can't see with your eyes, but you can feel. And I feel very similar. It's weird. Like, I don't know if you can relate to this. Like, I don't necessarily, I have a kind of blurry image of how my dad acted and his facial expressions and stuff like this. But like, I can feel the essence better than I can the HD image,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, you summarize. Yeah, you summarized. I love what you just said at the end of that, because it's the same exact thing for me. Like I get hit. I remember the essence more than anything, right? I do believe, like, right now where I'm at in my spiritual journey is, I do believe that the souls of my loved ones are somewhere, right? Like I do believe they are out there somewhere. It's hard for me to like envision a heaven, because heaven for me it doesn't make sense to me. I and that could just be arrogance, right? But for me, like a heaven doesn't really make sense. So I'm not entirely sure like where they would be. What I don't think the human brain is capable of comprehending
Yeah.
like another dimension where souls may go.
Well,
Right? Like
can I just interrupt you there?
Of course.
I'm sure you've had like you said you've used psychedelics, but maybe they are more in like the party sense, and you weren't. Maybe have you used psychedelics in a spiritual sense where you've experienced that
Absolutely.
oneness? Well,
Absolutely.
well, that's probably what you're talking about. Like you might.
Yeah.
It's hard for anybody to believe in heaven. What is heaven but oneness? It's like they return to oneness, to the wholeness. That's my framework on what heaven is. It's like it's just completeness. It's pure chaotic potential that like starts and ends with love. I don't know, as corny as that is to say, it seems like all the religions, everybody says like love is the highest frequency, that's what we're all made out of. And it seems like heaven is like a big ball of love, and we all are craving to get back to that love. Like it's so is it a place where there's a meadow and there's like all our loved ones are literally hanging out in flesh bodies? I don't know, but maybe their essence are all hanging out together in a weird way. Or obviously we can't word this, but like it's a very important idea in the grief journey, and for anybody that is trying to cultivate that relationship with the dead, it's like remembering that essence and then bringing it in closer to your own, and then trying to hold that space, and then just figure out how that makes you feel, and try and just sit with it. And then if you can, and over time try and develop a dialogue with that. That's what I've personally done.
It's wild to me how like I get like Ava, my girlfriend, she the first real loved one who she lost was her dog, that I was speaking about, who died last September, which was she took it really hard. She's still struggling with it today, and it blew my mind that was the first loved one who was like close to her that she was lost, and it brought us into conversation about spiritualism and religion. And in the past I would try to speak to her about it, and she would kind of be closed off in the sense of I don't know, and I don't want to think about this right now. That was always her thing. Like, I don't want to think about this. I have no idea. It's scary. And it kind of, it really opened my eyes up to the fact that there are so many people out there who have never truly thought about the bigger things in life, right? Like the bigger picture, and gone down these rabbit holes that we go down. She's one of them, right? So in a way I am, in a way I am grateful, and this might sound crazy, but in a way I am grateful for losing all the people that I've lost, right? I think it's made me a more resilient person. It's made me stronger. I think it showed me what really matters in life, right? So many people get so caught up in the little things, right? They get so worried and they're constantly anxious, and I think grief can do one of two things to you, right? Grief can make you a more worried and more anxious person, which definitely was me, right? Or it can do the exact opposite. In a weird way, it can make you less anxious, less worried, and
Yeah.
more free,
Yeah.
right? Like you've experienced this before. You thought of the big picture. You've been through, you know, the hardest times of your life, right? Like what can be harder than dealing with this at a young age? Um, but I think it's a process to get there, right? So I think that that's another way in with like how I deal with the grief is, it made me who I am today.
Yeah.
It made me realize what's important.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same things that are important to a lot of other people, I think aren't important to me because
Yeah.
I've been able to have the gift of suffering, and through the gift of suffering, I'm able to understand my core values, right? Which
Hmm.
at the end of the day, like for me, what I value in life is spending time with my loved ones. That's like number one. Spending time with my loved ones, being outdoors. I love money. Like all people love money. But that will never be everything to me, right? Like I just know um, at the end of the day, like my dad died with some money in his bank account. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Dude, powerful, powerful. Like I would, I don't want to. I'd hate to psychoanalyze or like put you on the spot or anything,
Oh, bring it on.
but the idea of I'm sure you've heard of like integrating the shadow from a Jungian perspective. Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
idea of looking at what we don't want to admit about ourselves. It's hard to fully face. I mean, it's interesting that a lot of people have an idea of the shadow is only like the terrible side of themselves that they don't want to admit. But like, what if like there's a terrible person that fully conscious and aware of all the bad stuff he does, and well, his shadow would be like more of like a Christ-like figure. Like it's just so whatever the opposite is.
Yeah.
And it stuck with me when you said something stuck with me that I kind of want to when you said that when you were talking about all the people that died around you, and you're like, well, what's the solution? And that you said that you've kind of at a wall there of a little bit of avoidance of being able to process that in a way that provides solutions, or it makes sense, you know. And I can't help but notice just how you've obviously had this really, really interesting internal journey, but like you've gone leaps and bounds over me, brother, like in terms of the physical journey. Like you were literally a fighter, you train hard, you're a professional athlete, you've been channeling so much of your story into the physical side of life, which is so cool, so beautiful, and then there's this phrase, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war, something like that.
Yeah.
You've heard of this?
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is that is absolutely true, right? But what's interesting to me is like you just won your title fight. What does the warrior do in the gardener and in the garden when he still thinks the war is going on? Like when does the war over? When's the PTSD from that end? And maybe I'm not trying to go like sappy over this. Like maybe you're not in that headspace, but what I'm trying to get at is maybe you're on such a like, I don't know what I'm trying to actually get at. I thought I had a point there.
No, I think I see your point. I think I see your point for sure. It's kind of the way I interpreted that is, because you're absolutely right. Like I channel so much of the mental health and grief and everything that I've been through. I channel it into. You're 100% right when you say that. I channel so much of it into like what I'm doing physically. You're absolutely right about that. And it kind of, a lot of athletes struggle with this. A lot of them struggle. They call it post-fight depression.
Oh yeah,
So like, yeah, like after a fight, after a big win, it's almost like you would expect to feel this this big, you'd expect that somebody would feel extremely happy for days or weeks after the fact, but most of the time, from me and most of the people that I know, it's actually the opposite. You feel worse after. The bigger the win is, the worse you feel after, because it's all over. And I know that. Like I've always known that. Like I always know when I win, after I win,
That's
I'm probably
crazy.
not going to feel the best, right? So because I know this, I've been saying it to all the people around me. I've been telling them, just remember, it's always, always, always about the journey. It's never about the destination. It's never about the destination. That's something for me. And I think you can tie that back into like losing a loved one too, right? Because it's always about the journey, right? And what I mean by that is so many people, like I go throughout life and I see so many people who are, and I've fallen victim to this too, but we're always looking to the next thing, right? Whether it's getting a new job, making your first $100,000 a year, winning a fight, getting a girlfriend, whatever it is. But then it's like, if it's getting a new car or whatever it is, but then it's like you get there, you get to that point, and it's never what you thought it was going to be. It's just always what's next, what's next, what's next. And I think that we need to go about a life just understanding it's not about the destination. It's not about where we end up. It's all about the journey, because that's all we have. It's always
Yeah.
about the journey. And like, again, I think just losing loved ones has made me realize that, like, when I was 14, it was never about becoming a rock star, or it was never about whatever I had my mindset on the moment. It was always about, enjoying the time that I had in the journey,
Yeah.
right? So I think, like, to tie it back to what you were just saying, like, sometimes, so I would say a few years ago, it was hard for me if I were injured. It was hard for
Yeah.
me because I couldn't work out.
Yep. Yep.
Like I
Yep.
couldn't
I can relate with
go to
that.
the gym and see my friends, and if I were limited physically, it would be difficult.
Yeah.
So I remember a few years ago, I realized this. And, I had already been sober for a few months, and I was still working on my overall mental health. Um, and exercise had definitely become like my main thing that I go to for my mental health. But I quickly realized, like, that can't be something that I depend on, because I'm not always going to be young and able-bodied, and you could get injured and X, Y, and Z. So nowadays it's just the simple things. Like, um, for me, if I spend too much time on my phone, I go crazy.
Oh yeah.
What I'm realizing is I need to be outside as
Yes.
much as I can.
Me too.
Yeah, there's something about just being outside, around grass, around trees,
Yeah.
that just, it calms me. Um, and that's kind of like this whole week I've had off from work, and it's my first time not working, like a 9 to 5 in a few years, and I've literally spent all week like just outside, just hanging
Nice.
out outside, away from my phone, and just thinking and not thinking. So that's kind of what I've been doing. Like,
Nice.
I know it's not healthy to put all my eggs in one basket. Um, and you could say that about anything too, right? Like, to tie it back into like biohacking, right? Like I know you're big into biohacking. I'm big into biohacking and health and eating organic and drinking enough water and getting 8 hours of sleep, morning sunlight,
raw milk.
yeah, raw milk, all of that, right? So I'm huge into biohacking, all of that side of wellness. But I could tell you from personal experience that I realized after maybe 2 years of being so obsessed with biohacking and being optimal, I could tell you that for me anyway, I have learned the past few months that is unhealthy to be so obsessed with it that it becomes like OCD.
Yeah.
Because even though it benefited my life in many ways, it also started to harm. I would start to be obsessing over tiny things. I would obsess over ingredients in food. I stopped living my life. Like, I would check my sleep score on my Fitbit. And, if it was under 80, I'd be upset like the whole day. And I'd be convinced inside my mind, like, I'm not going to be able to work out as hard. My brain, I'm not going to be as cognitively capable. So the past few months, I've kind of let go of that a little bit. Like, I've allowed myself to I can have some cupcakes, or I can stay up. I can play video games at night.
You can have a little bit of cocaine.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
No, you can't have a little bit of cocaine. I'm just joking.
I know. A little bit of coke, a little bit of blow. But I started to get obsessed with like, and every single night, like I would need all the overhead lights to be off by 8 p.m. And, no screens, listen to podcasts at night, which I'm still really good about no screens at night. Like at 10 p.m., I'll start to listen to something instead of look at something. But I'm not as upset. It was just harming my mental health, just being that obsessed with it. Ben, wait, give me 1 second. I'm outside. My phone is at 6%. Let me run inside real quick.
Do what you gotta do. I'm gonna.
Wait 1 minute.
I will entertain the viewers with a sexy refill of a juicy pint of raw milk.
Dude, I wish I liked raw milk, but
have you tried it?
No, because my whole life I've always hated milk.
Oh, right. Well,
and I tried it again recently, and I absolutely hated it.
Was it raw though, or do you know?
No, it wasn't raw. But
that's the thing, dude. Like, no joke, there is a night and day difference, especially in America. Like, it's not even funny, the difference. And I would never, ever once in my whole life drink a pint of milk if it wasn't raw. Like, this is only a thing I've been doing 2 or 3 years ago. 3 years ago. No, 2.5 years ago or so. And but like pasteurized milk, no. Like, there's like a lot of people in my holistic health community, like they, it's extreme, but they have everybody's extreme in their own way, and they say that they believe that there's no such thing as lactose intolerance, that there's only pasteurized intolerance. Because you pasteurize it, you break down the lactase, which is the precursor to lactose, so that you can't fully absorb and digest the milk correctly. Now, there is some nuance to that, because there are people that are allergic and find it hard to break down the protein casein within milk, and that's kind of a separate thing. But in terms of like standard pasteurized, homogenized American like grocery milk, like, dude, you don't have a chance. Of course you're gonna hate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, like even the food, I'm telling you, the food over where you're at versus here, it's night and day. And every single time I'm in Ireland, I'm not working out, I'm eating whatever I want, but somehow I feel better than when I'm in the US and I'm like trying to like be optimal and like eat healthy and all of that. It's they're so even in our labels, like they'll try to, and I know how to read labels at this point, but they'll try to brand stuff as
Oh
Like the
yeah.
branding is so sneaky.
Oh yeah, that's the worst part of it all. Like there's so much like I was at this wellness like I said, these wellness awards yesterday, and there were so many different companies that were there winning awards for their nutritional thing. But like I was sat next to this really fascinating woman who like we had a lot of similarities, and she were like we were getting along, and we were saying, yeah, there's just so much fakery in this business. It's just they label it as healthy. They might have a kefir drink or a kefir, whatever you pronounce it, but it's just like dried powder kefir grains. It's not real grains, so it's like, and they add all these additives into it. But then on the label they'll slap on kefir, and then everybody at the store will buy it and then thinking they're being healthy when really they're having all these sweeteners and bullshit that fuck up your gut. And yeah, you might be getting one like a couple percent good bacteria from the kefir powder maybe, but it's nothing like the real thing, you know.
100%, man. And once again, I just wanted to apologize for my lack of professionalism on this podcast.
Yeah, you should
And
be
my
sorry.
dog and moving. Give me 1 second. And also,
Please give me a roundhouse, please.
you.
Yes. Oh hell yeah, that's form right there,
That's a really
effortless.
funny one in my hokas. But yeah, again, like I want to apologize too for like straying away from the topic. But I just feel like everything's so connected. Like you know, in like grief has been a major thing in my life. Like it's almost like I made it such a huge part of my identity
Yeah.
my entire life. Like it's always been my identity, right? Like it's all like if I would hear that somebody had lost a parent or a friend, I always felt like, oh, I have it way worse than they do. So that person, like, and I would always try to comfort that person, right? Like I made it my identity. Like I'd always tell them I've lost so many people, blah 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 blah. And you know, I'm at this point in my life where my mental health is so well right now. Like I've never been this healthy, mentally and physically. Like I'm at such
Beautiful.
a good point in my life, where it's kind of like it's 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 kind of ironic because I think about grief and all of those feelings a lot less, but not on purpose. Like it's almost like when I have those feelings, when I think about my dad or any of my loved ones, I'm not getting attached to those emotions the same way that I used to. I'm kind of just viewing it from a bird's eye perspective and just allowing myself to view it like, you know, I am not this thought. This thing happened to me. Um, this thing happened to me. It's a part of my identity, but it's not all I am. And I think so many people, no matter what we do, we struggle with our identity, especially as people who have struggled with grief and losing a parent at a young age, right? Like we all have some form of this identity crisis
Identity.
going on,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. Big time. Big
especially
time.
growing up too, like I would see my friends with their parents and
Oh
their
yeah.
dads
Oh,
and
that's
just
hard. That is really, really
yeah,
hard. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I can only imagine how it was for you too. You know, because you had lost both of your parents, but for me, it was always like damn, like you know, I wonder what that's like, right? And it became my identity, and then so many people they struggle with um their identity. It may not be with grief. It could be with anything, right? For me, it just so happens to be with grief, right? But like I see people who are fighters, for example, and that's all they are. right?
Yeah,
Like they
yeah.
don't understand identity is fluid, or like somebody who makes their whole identity their career, I think is actually the worst one, because fuck that.
Yeah, then you're tied to it financially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said, man. Yeah, that's very well said. Like,
Yeah,
and
just
I
understanding it's all fluid.
exactly, and you touched on it 20 minutes ago or whatever that like life is about the journey, and not the destination. And then when you were saying that, that kind of made me think that in a sense you kind of answered your own dilemma when you were talking about
Yeah.
when you're talking about the people that you've lost their friends, let's say, that you can't, that there's no solution. It's just like, well, a solution implies there's an end point, there's a agreed upon destination. Well, life is about the journey, so it's like the weird thing about, like, Nietzsche said that the tragedy was a blessing because it gave one more potential to become great. That's paraphrasing. Obviously, he said it in a way more profound way than that. But the idea that, like, each time something tragic happens, it offers us the opportunity to become like twice as good as we were before if we rise to the occasion. So it's like, even if we can't connect with, even if you can't connect with those people that you're talking about in this way that it makes sense metaphysically, maybe this is because it's, you're on your journey, and like that, like, you've experienced a lot of these deaths, and that will take time, and maybe in the future that will manifest itself in a way more of a way that makes sense metaphysically, and then maybe you won't say that statement anymore. That's saying that, like, that you're waiting for solutions, or that almost, what's the point in engaging in it and avoiding it, because
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, and I was just kind of thinking out loud too,
yeah,
when I was saying that, and like you said, like, there is no solution, but there's not supposed to be a solution, because that implies there's a destination, right? Like again, like it's always about the journey.
yeah. And that's why I love talking about alchemy, and this the constant state of taking one thing and moving it into another. And it's like you said, it's all fluid. So, uh, man, you're an inspiration, and I look up to you a lot. Like, I really, really do. And I think you started to get your shit together, I'd say, before me. Like, really, I and yeah, I've always been like looking from afar and being, when I was started getting into spirituality, you were in my thoughts and prayers a lot. When I was sun gazing in the morning, I would do a checklist of all my loved ones and my family, and you'd be high up there, man, because like I said, the more tragedy that befalls us, the more potential we have for greatness. And that mightn't be an egoic, you don't have to like become an egoic fucking person chasing riches or whatever. I'm not shitting on that, but you get what I'm saying. You could be a master, you could be the potential for greatness is so raw for people who have this, because like the further you sink, the higher you can ascend. So it's all that yin yang stuff.
Dude, you said it best, and yeah, you're just touching on like everything. It's kind of crazy, like how similar you and I are, dude. But yeah, I want to let you know, like, I've always looked up to you. You've always been the coolest cousin in my eyes. I always thought you were like, especially, I think it's the accent too, dude. But I've I've always felt like whenever you talk, like it's like super profound. Like ever since I was a child, I
Fuck.
was
Oh
yeah,
shit.
like it's definitely it's true, man. It's true. I've always felt that way about you, man. I've always looked up to you, and like you were saying, like it's I don't know, everything that you've been saying for the most part are like ideas that I've always had in my head too. Like I've always felt like so I said this to my patients too, when I worked inpatient at a rehab, right? I used to always tell them, you know, everybody loves a comeback story. Like everybody
Yep.
loves a character redemption story. Everybody loves a redemption story, right? And like if you look at characters throughout history who will always be remembered, they're always the ones with the craziest redemption stories, or the ones who have had to struggle with adversity the most. It's like, without adversity, how can you ever be great? And whatever greatness looks like to you, like it's always going to be different to whoever, right? But like you look at, to go back to Jesus Christ, you look at all of the adversity he faced. In the U.S., we have MLK Jr., all of the adversity he faced. Throughout history, like it's always Gandhi, like Nelson Mandela, all of these people who will always be remembered. It's like they're the ones who had the most adversity. And I see some, and I hate to say, like, this is definitely coming from a place of arrogance when I say this, but I definitely know some people who haven't been through a lot in their lives at all, and they just seem to be totally content with like going to work, getting off of work, and then sitting by the pool and having a beer, watching TV, and going to sleep. And that's how they live their lives. And I would never knock anyone for how they live their lives, right? Like, I'm in no position to knock anybody for anything that they do, because I feel like we all should be able to do whatever without criticism, as long as we're not harming anybody else. But it's also pretty wild to me, because how do I phrase this the right way? Everything that I've lived, Ben, and everything that you've lived, and everything that a random Joe Schmo has lived in their life means the same exact amount to each of us individually. If that makes sense. I'm trying to verbalize it better.
Yes.
But what I think everything is to me is just as big and important as somebody else doing something completely different. Or like to Grace, my dog, everything that she's been through is just as much as everything that I've been through. There's a movie called Mr. Nobody.
Okay, never heard of it.
Mr. Nobody. And there is a quote from that movie. You need to watch it, because I think that you would...
Mr. Nobody, all right.
You would love it. Like, you're somebody who's into existential stuff. You would absolutely love this movie, because it will... Okay, this is the quote. Every path is the right path. Everything could have been anything else, and it would have just as much meaning. Everything could have been anything else, and it would have just as much meaning. I remember the first time watching that movie and hearing that quote. It really sat with me throughout the years, because it made me realize, like, I could have lived a completely different life with way less adversity or way more adversity, and everything would have had just as much meaning as my life does now in that version of me. Does that make sense?
It does, and it's not something I really have thought about before. It's just really, really cool, and very selfless of you to extend that level of depth to everybody. Because I think a lot of the time I struggle with being a little bit selfish and self-absorbed and wrapped up in my own story, because, well, lots of reasons, but I'm an only child. That doesn't help with things. I'm used to seeing, and the fact that my parents died, and I kind of like, I feel like I'm the lone wolf. So so self-absorbed. So it's a really healthy and refreshing perspective that I'm not that I don't ever have thought that before, but like I think I need to meditate on that more and extend that level of grace toward everybody, even that's not engaging in esoteric philosophy, all this, it's like, you're dead right, because like everybody, anybody who's living, like what they know is all they know. So it's going to have that same level of drama or that level of depth to someone who is, you know, wrapped up in the deepest of stuff or whatever. So yeah, it made a lot of sense, dude.
Yeah, it was kind of like even when, like, to go back to like Ava's childhood dog dying, like that was, to her, like that was everything. Like the grief that she felt from that happening to her was like in the moment it was like my dad dying.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
just because she doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is strange. It is, yeah, we're all come from the same starting point, I guess. And
But like if you look at like these kids in Gaza, or people in Ukraine, or
yeah, yeah,
anything like that, and I'm over here in the richest country on earth, and I'm and things aren't amazing in the US by any means, right? Like everything's, our country, like everything's so expensive, and healthcare sucks, and X, Y, and Z, and I get so pissed off about it all the time. But then, like, just to remember, like, I need to take a step back and understand, like, there are people who are struggling way worse than
yeah.
I will ever struggle. But in the moment, it's like everything is, nothing could be worse. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you mean, and that is a very healthy thing to balance your own story out. But I think, like, this is going to sound horrible to say, but like, because I always try to acknowledge just how privileged I am. Like, I have an extraordinarily privileged life, and as much as I harper on about trauma and grief and shit, like, realistically, I was given such an amazing home because of this. Like, that's one privilege that half the world doesn't have. And not only that, but in a beautiful place, and it's with all this loving extended family. Like, I'm so beyond privileged. But in the same way that you said that, kind of like, even to the random Joe Schmo, they feel the same level of depth and importance about their lives than the really deep person. Like, because all they know is what they know. So, like, I think I remember hearing Jordan Peterson talk about that years ago, saying that, like, this CEO corporate guy driving a Ferrari, like, who's to say he's just as he's any less depressed than a war victim. And that sounds bonkers to say, because objectively, like, one is insanely, like, crazily suffering and one seems surface level shit. But, like, how does in the internal suffering journey, you know what I mean? Like, it is crazy to say that. Like, I might sound like really inappropriate to say that, like, to compare
No,
those
not at all.
but like, it is the same way that we extend the grace of saying, well, our level of suffering and pain is not really any different to someone who hasn't gone through all these trials and tribulations. Well, it's kind of like the same goes the other way. So it is really like everybody is in their own little movie. And you actually started off this all saying first main character syndrome.
Yeah.
Dude, don't talk to me. Like, that's my life. And somewhere along the way I said that's silly. But in recent times, I've been trying to bring that back in and using it as something that empowers you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, I mean, like you were saying, like, we're all in our own little movie. And it's like, do you want to be the main character in your movie? I do. Me personally, I definitely do, right? So, like, that's not always a bad thing, right? Like, I feel like there are different types of, like, main character syndrome, right? Like, you have the Karen at the Starbucks who, like, she thinks she's the main character of everybody else's movies.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you have, like, that type, but then you have, like, I don't know, you have, like, the guy, the redemption story main character in the movie where, the guy hits the Rocky Balboa, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's all sorts. Yeah, I think it's having that level of self-awareness and skeptical criticism to know, hey, like, don't become the asshole main character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Don't think that you're the only character.
yeah.
That's maybe a better way to put it. And everybody is living their own main characters. But
Dude, and
anyway,
I just wanted to let you know, not to cut
yeah,
you off, but
no, go
just
on.
before, since we're on the subject of like main characters and stuff, want to let you know, man, like I'm super, super, super impressed and inspired, and proud of you for starting this channel because, um, yeah, there's like as somebody who like myself and for so many years you want to do something exactly like what you're doing, but so many people either they get scared and they let fear dictate what they're doing and they don't do it, or they don't have the they don't have the work ethic or energy to actually set it up and do exactly what you're doing now. So I think that's awesome, man.
Oh man, I greatly appreciate that, dude. Especially from you, like really, especially from you, man. Thanks. It's it's amalgamation of a lot of things. A lot of it stemming from to make this come full circle is at the start when you said about um like feeling like we were going to become rock stars, like big people, and then like trauma, life stomped down those dreams, and then the more idealized kind of simplistic idea of like I want to become a famous footballer or a famous rock star, like
Yeah,
something that's very simple, that gets crushed, and then it's just like, well, I still am kind of left with this feeling. So what does that go? What
yeah,
did I channel with? What do I do with that? And then you look around and you go, well, what have I got to say? And I was like, well, I don't have much to say about like shit. I have no idea, like the economics or fucking I don't know,
yeah,
even football. Like I don't know shit. Like I don't follow, and but like I know some things about some esoteric bullshit.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate that, man. That means so much, man. And I really, likewise, I'm inspired by you, and we keep, rising tides lift all ships. So that's it goes to say I'm looking at you from across the pond, and yeah, you're definitely pushing me on my journey. So thanks for coming on my podcast, dude. And I'd love to have you back on sometime
But
in the
dude,
future.
that would be awesome, man. That would be awesome. I would love to come back on, dude. Yeah, I had a blast, dude. And it's the same thing. Like because I'll see the stuff you post on Instagram, and I'm like, hell yeah. It just no, because it's
Boys will
so
see this and
weird.
they'll
Like
say,
I
"Hell
just
yeah."
I just can't get over like the synchronicity
Mm.
of it all, right? Like, because I feel like we got into the same shit at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love all the esoteric um, shit that you're into, and yeah, man, and uh, just to close it out too, I think I'm trying to plan out a trip over there probably like next spring.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'll hold you to that, my man.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, sweet. You want Ava as well, the dog? No, the dog probably won't come.
Probably not the dog. Oh, but and yeah, dude, if you're ever in the Philly area, dude, you should stop by because we have like where I'm living now, it's like so Ava's mom Ava's mom's best friend is our landlord,
All
and she
right.
is filthy rich.
Oh shit.
So yeah, so she charges us like a very, very, very fair price
Oh
to
wow.
stay in like a
Nice.
beautiful, huge
Ah.
house. We have like a
And
we
that's
have a
where you
hot
are now.
tub. Yeah, we have like a huge yard. Like we're right outside of Philadelphia. We have a huge
Ah,
yard.
awesome.
We have a saltwater pool, saltwater hot tub, a planning
Whoa.
studio,
What?
all sorts of stuff, man.
Oh
So
fuck
if you're ever in the
yeah.
area, dude.
Fuck yeah. Oh, dude, that's awesome. See, yeah, the world works itself out when you're on the right path.
Yeah, man.
But I feel like we just scratched this, and yes, I absolutely take you up. If I'm in the States, I'm absolutely hitting you up, absolutely 100%. But yeah, like I said, I think we could just riff for hours on different things. There's so many different things I could delve into with you. So to be continued, folks. Yeah.
To be continued.
All right, my man. Well,
I appreciate you, man.
thanks everybody for watching. I hope this got some value from it, and if nothing else, you might have been entertained by two people riffing on all sorts of stuff. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
All right, brother. Love you, man. Take it easy.
Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate your time. Like, really great stuff. You're a great talker. Like, Jesus Christ. Like,
oh, thank you, man.
You're natural.
You too, dude. I can't believe 2 hours passed. I just checked the time.
I know. I looked at the time and I was like, okay, I think we should wrap it up because, viewers, it's about right.
So you had to wrap it up because it's 8 p.m. in Ireland and you can't be staring at a screen.
Yeah, that's it. We're circadian maxing. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, brother. Love you, man. Take it easy.
Love you, dude. See you. Bye-bye.
There are these peculiar faculties of the psyche that it isn't entirely confined to space and time. You can have dreams or visions of the future. You can see round corners and such things. Only ignorance deny these facts. It's quite evident that they do exist and have existed always.